Batman Beyond shows that Gotham City doesn't get brighter with age, it just grows colder. The neon lights gleam over streets slick with rain, but beneath that shine lies a city that has surrendered to apathy, greed, and fear. In this Gotham, even the gifted aren't safe. Children with extraordinary abilities don't grow up protected. They are hunted, recruited, and exploited. And no one embodies that exploitation more completely than the Brain Trust. 3 gifted, detached, and terrifyingly efficient manipulators who turn brilliance into a commodity. They arrived in Gotham not to nurture potential but to harvest it, presenting a school for the gifted as a facade for kidnapping and indoctrination. In a city where morality has been corroded, they are the perfect predators, a dark reflection of everything hope in Gotham used to be. The Brain Trust were original creations for Batman Beyond. The group consists of Bombshell, who can summon explosives through her hands, Invulnerable Man, who, as the name suggests, cannot be harmed, for the most part, and the albino, Edgar Mandragora, who had psychic and telekinetic powers. They came to Batman's attention after they arrived in Gotham to kidnap a psychic girl named Tamara Calder, and she reached out to Batman psychically to be rescued. They presented themselves as educators who specialized in supporting gifted children that the regular education system could not handle. They promised Tamara's parents that they would take her to their special school and teach her to control her powers and eventually live a better life. But it was all a sham. Their school was a fake. In reality, they took Tamara and intended to train her to become a mercenary for hire. If you're a long-time comic reader, then elements of this story might sound familiar. The Brain Trust is a dark take on Marvel Comics' X-Men, much in the same way that the Terrific Trio were a riff on the Fantastic Four. Instead of seeking out, protecting and nurturing the gifted, they hunt children who can unlock 100% of their brain power and exploit them. And they're deceptive. They present themselves as kindly educators who only want the best for the children. But in reality, they're parasites looking to profit off of other people's talents. Where Xavier taught empathy, responsibility, and humanity, the Brain Trust teaches obedience, utility, and detachment. Where he built a sanctuary, they built a storefront. Now, I've already spoken at length about how Marvel Comics inspired the world of Batman Beyond in another video, and I've linked to that in the info button in the top right corner, so add that to your watch later list if the subject interests you. But this is just another way that the writers on Batman Beyond took familiar concepts and reimagined them for their bleak future. In Batman Beyond, powers don't make you special, they make you a target for exploitation. The Brain Trust school doesn't nurture potential, it harvests it. This is a stark contrast with Charles Xavier and his mission. Xavier built his school on hope and the idea that mutants could coexist with the world. He believed that difference was something to be celebrated rather than feared. The Brain Trust took that same dream and turned it inside out. Their school isn't a sanctuary, it's a prison. They don't find children to protect them from the world, they find them to sell them. Where Xavier offered guidance, the Brain Trust offers indoctrination. Where he taught his students to embrace their humanity, the Brain Trust stripped it away. While the X-Men were born from optimism and the belief that power could be good and that society could change, the Brain Trust is born from the idea that everything can be turned into a product, even a child. We don't know much about the 3 adult members of the Brain Trust. Edgar was the son of gangster Stephen Mandragora. As a child, he had been kidnapped by his father's enemies. He was briefly seen in a Justice League Unlimited episode Double Date, where he was reunited with his father before he was sent to prison. But everything else is a mystery. Maybe Edgar, Bombshell, and the Invulnerable Man began as victims themselves, students who survived the experiments and decided to carry them on. That idea plays with something deeply human and deeply sad, the cycle of abuse. The ones who were used learn to use others, which is a grotesque inheritance of sorts. Where X-Men treated mutation as identity, the Brain Trust treats it as currency, and the 3 members are detached from the rest of the world. Bombshell is cold, Invulnerable Man barely reacts to anything, and Edgar is just downright creepy. You can interpret that detachment as a form of self-preservation. Dehumanizing themselves is a way of coping with the trauma they endured as children, trained to be tools rather than humans. By numbing empathy and emotion, they protect themselves from the pain of remembering who they once were and from recognizing the humanity they've long since sacrificed. In a sense, their inhumanity is both a weapon and a shield, a way to survive a world that first made them victims and then made them monsters. While Batman is able to defeat the Brain Trust with Tamara's help, they resurface in the often overlooked Batman Beyond spin-off show, the Zeta Project. But the impact had notably diminished. Only Edgar and Bombshell appeared with a new member, Skiz, added to the mix. The show's brighter palette and more child-friendly tone stripped away much of their menace. For instance, Edgar spoke and was seen in daylight. Bombshell schemed less cleverly, and the group's plans felt more generic, manipulating radio signals to bring out children's latent powers. Okay. Seeing them outside of the dark shadows of Gotham removed some of their mystery, effectively defanging them. What had been chilling manipulators in Batman Beyond now felt almost cartoonish, although I suppose it did give us the opportunity to see more of them in a different context, fleshing them out. These were their only on-screen appearances, and they weren't featured in any of the official tie-in comics, likely because all there was to say about them had already been said by this point. However, in the Justice League Beyond digital comic series that launched in 2012, the Brain Trust went against the Justice League Unlimited. But before you get too excited, remember that these comics are unconnected to the shows. Yes, they are set in a world that is very similar to the one from the cartoons, but they were written a decade after Batman Beyond ended, without the involvement of anyone that worked on the show. It's okay to like them, but try not to conflate them with the show's continuity. In these comics, the Brain Trust's plan again centered on exploiting gifted children, training them to become weapons through manipulation and abuse, and one of their victims included Kal-El, the Green Lantern of the era, even though he isn't a metahuman without his ring. Seems like a bit of an oversight there. While they regained some of their former ruthlessness, their appearance feels more like echoes of their past brilliance rather than a true return to form. The story ended with the return of the Marvel family, a nice bit of fan service I suppose, and the Brain Trust teleporting away, ready to return at any point in the future. But it just didn't happen. The Brain Trust began as a genuinely frightening force that was a perfect reflection of Gotham's cold, calculated future. In their first appearance they were terrifying not because of their powers, but because of the way they exploited children, weaponizing brilliance itself. They were methodical, inhuman, and utterly convincing in their role as manipulators, making Gotham feel like a place where even the gifted could not escape corruption. As someone that also really enjoys X-Men, and took a lot from the teachings of Charles Xavier, their dark reflection of his message is impactful to me. By the time they resurfaced in the Zeta Project, much of that menace had dissipated. The stakes were lower, the schemes were more cartoonish, and the horror lessened by a brighter, child-friendly aesthetic. The Brain Trust had lost the edge that made them so memorable in Batman Beyond. What had been a chilling reflection of abuse and exploitation became almost paradoxically a footnote in a story aimed at younger audiences. In the Justice League Beyond digital comics, they came close to returning to form, executing larger scale schemes against the Justice League and demonstrating the same ruthless efficiency they once had. Yet, even here, they felt more like echoes of their original brilliance than a true return to form. The stories hinted at the heights they once reached, but never quite recaptured the atmosphere of menace, mystery, and moral decay that made their first appearance stick out. Ultimately, the Brain Trust shows how a single idea, that gifted minds deserve guidance, can be interpreted in radically different ways. One path builds empathy, trust, and hope. The other breeds exploitation, detachment, and fear. The Brain Trust proves that brilliance, when twisted, is not neutral. It can inspire hope, or it can become a weapon. Okay, that's it for this week's essay. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, tell all your friends about me. You know how YouTube works. If you really enjoyed the video and have the means, please consider making use of the thanks button to send a buck or two my way, because every little helps. I offer channel memberships for $1.99 a month. This will get you early access to my weekly video essay, priority responses to your comments, members-only videos, custom emojis, and an icon on your profile indicating that you're one of my people. And special thanks to my channel members. Everyone who was a member at the time of this video's creation is listed on the screen right now. If you want to see your name amongst all these wonderful people, join the channel now. next time. When I return on Monday, it'll be time to go to the vibrant streets of Dakota once again to talk about the volatile bully hot streak. And then next Friday, I want to get philosophical again to talk about another excellent episode of Batman the Animated Series. I want to talk about His Silicon Soul, a story that questions what it means to be alive and if a machine can ever truly have a soul. Hope to see you then.